What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Not About Wrestling. I am host number 1, Chris Illuminati. She is host number 2. Want to say your name?
Why do you get to be number 1? Stephanie Bowen.
Because I started this thing.
Okay. Oh wait. Oh, now it's yours, or not
mean?
ours.
Well, I'm still host number 1.
Okay. So,
what do you find distracts you the most?
Distracts me the most?
Yeah, like when you have to get stuff done, what's the one thing that pulls you away? Is it an app on your phone? Is it the dog?
Music. As a singer, if I'm playing music, 100% chance that at some point I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and just like get up and sing in some makeshift microphone and dance around my apartment. It takes me forever to get ready.
And that can stop you from, keeps you from like getting places on time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever stopped to sing and been late for this podcast?
I mean, I've been late getting ready because I was singing.
Yeah, well, that's the
dominant. And then in turn, yeah. So yes.
Okay, so that was a yes.
Yes.
What was the stupidest song you ever stopped to sing?
Oh, well, I just sing just stupid songs all the time. I don't know. It's anything.
Well, one of the songs that, like, if you mentioned to anybody, like, I'd really be embarrassed to know that I belted this out.
I'm not embarrassed by any song that I belt out like that. Recently, I've been really into Michael Bolton. So, Said I Love You, But I Lied is a jam and a half to sing.
So I always like to, when people make statements like that, I always think to myself, how many people have made that statement in the last year? And I'm going to say you're maybe one of 3.
I'm going to Twitter search after this and see. People have got to be talking about this song because it's amazing.
Wait, I said I love you, but I lied?
Yeah.
Yeah, in my Wayback Machine. Like, no one's talking about that. How do you, okay.
I'm going to look it up right now as you make fun of me.
First of all, the probability of stumbling upon that Michael Bolton song, you're either at a grocery store, in the car with your mom, or
my dad,
like on an 80s Spotify. When do we mention this is a wrestling podcast?
It's not about wrestling, Chris.
Not about wrestling. We're gonna get.
This is why we made it the title, right? So we could just talk about Michael Bolton in an intro to an interview.
What if you're a wrestler and you finally make your debut, and they're like, and we have the best theme song for you. It's sung by Michael Bolton.
But you're just saying just a regular old Michael Bolton classic as.
Well, I don't know if any Michael Bolton classic would work as an entrance theme. How can we be lovers if we can't be friends?
He covered How Am I Supposed to Live Without You?
Oh, that's another one.
Which is a good one.
I could see any of these songs playing over like a wrestling montage.
Just like a tag team breakup.
Yes. How am I supposed to live without you? I said I loved you, but I lied. Like if Mandy turned on Otis.
Well, Said I Love You, but I Lied is actually a love song. It's not a breakup song. So that would be the reverse.
How's it a love song?
Because the lyric is Said I Loved You, but I Lied, because this is more than love I feel inside.
Oh, I never listened past the first line.
Apparently not. So
should we talk about wrestling?
Yeah, sure.
I wrote an article today for Bro Bible that I found fascinating because it just shows you kind of how out of touch Vince McMahon is, but
okay,
he runs the company, so you really can't do anything about it.
No. What was this article?
On Kurt Angle's podcast, he was talking about, so Angle came back the same year that AJ Styles debuted in WWE. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they worked together in TNA. And when Angle was there for the Royal Rumble, when Styles debuted, people went nuts. That's why I was looking at that video today and I showed you the guy's face.
Yeah, it was like my favorite debut.
Yeah.
Of AJ.
So Vince was shocked that people knew who he was. That many people knew who he was, that he got the pop that he did. And when he came backstage, Angle says that he knows for certain that Vince said to AJ Styles, I wish I would have brought you in 10 years ago. That's not the part I'm fascinated by. The fact that Vince still thinks that people who watch WWE only watch WWE and watch no other wrestling.
Right. It's a totally different, even then it was a totally different landscape. Like it's extremely different now and everyone watches so like everything, but it's shocking that he didn't realize that
Yeah,
then or still. I assume that he knows now,
I don't think he knows
but
now.
I don't.
I still don't think he knows now. I think he thinks WWE fans are that they're just WWE fans and watch no other wrestling.
I think there's a decent chunk of them that only watch WWE, but there's still so many that equally spread their time across all promotions.
But this is what I don't understand. Growing up a wrestling fan, like I watched WWF and I watched WCW at the time. I
Mhm.
kind of liked WCW more because everyone was kind of based more in reality. Like, yes, of course, I liked your Hogans and your Ultimate Warriors, but after you got past the first couple top guys, afterwards there was really nothing. But I would like gravitate more towards WCW.
Mhm.
I was a fan of both of those. I would watch them both on TV. If I was flipping through the channels and saw wrestling, but neither of those promotions, as a wrestling fan, I would still stop and watch just
Mhm.
out of curiosity. Just to
Yeah, to
see
see what else is
what is it.
going on or what else is out there.
So why wouldn't they think, especially now where you can flip on anything on your phone, on you could be on Instagram and get exposed to 3 different wrestlers you've never heard of today. Why would he assume that this person who I might add was New Japan's world champion, was TNA champion for a very long time, bounced around to a couple of different Ring of Honor. Like the guy was everywhere but the WWE. So how would Vince think this guy somehow got skipped by even a hardcore WWE fan would kind of be like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, especially because it's like he would have just been like ignoring everything that everyone has told him. It's not like he's not getting this information.
Mm,
Like there are people actively scouting people and watching other products to see what they're doing, or at least there should be.
yeah.
You would assume there are, but I can't assume anything. That he should have had this knowledge way before and he just didn't do anything with it or was like, no, whatever, not paying attention to that. It doesn't make sense. It's just him living in his bubble and just not wanting to hear what anyone else has to say.
Yeah, I think it's like that with any organization. Like the person who's run it for so long thinks they know what the audience wants, even though they're well past even knowing who their audience is.
Yeah, I mean, you constantly, in any business, you constantly have to be looking at your competition, what they're doing, and who's out there. You're always looking to recruit. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't be paying attention to what's going on.
Any wrestling news you want to talk about?
There, there's so many things going on. I can't wrap my brain around it. I we talked about a little bit at the end of the last one that everything going on between AEW and Impact and New Japan just has me like so excited. I just can't wait to see who shows up when they show up tomorrow night. So this is recorded a week before it drops. So by the time this comes out, we would have already seen Finn Juice, David Finlay, and Juice Robinson show up on Impact, which will be interesting to see what happens there.
Here's something we never really covered. You started watching wrestling mid 2010s, right?
Yeah.
You
Early 10. It's been almost 10 years.
Okay, so let's just pretend 2010.
Yeah.
Your first exposure was a WWE show.
Yes. So Royal
How,
Rumble.
how did you get into New Japan? Was it back when they used to show on for a while it was they used to show repeats, like months old repeats on what channel was it? It was the same channel that would show Ring of Honor. Access? I think Access for a while used to show on Friday nights New Japan for like 2 hours from 8 to 10. That's why
No,
I used to watch it there.
no, I actually I
A few moments later,
now it's my turn to record when he's not here.
one eternity later.
Let's get back into the New Japan discussion. You got into New Japan. You were not watching it on Friday nights like I thought.
Right. And I was saying that it was right before AJ debuted because I remember being excited for that. And obviously, if I hadn't been watching New Japan, I wouldn't have any idea why that was a big deal. But I think it was just before then.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I don't remember how I got into it exactly. Like, I think I watched some stuff on YouTube, but I didn't really like watch it until after AJ debuted. And then I would watch Wrestle Kingdom and all that. But I made friends with some bartenders down the street at our local bar that were big wrestling fans that I've been to 2 WrestleManias with them now. That they were really into all the indie stuff and other promotions. So I think I learned a lot from them as well.
We did mention AEW, and one of our guests today is AEW's own Scorpio Sky, and with him is James Willems, and they now have a podcast out, and it's called Wrestling with the Week.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it's kind of funny that they came on a podcast to talk about another podcast.
Yeah, but it's AEW. It's for the fans.
Yeah. So we're cool. I've had Scorpio on before. We once again addressed the fact that he's never fucking seen a Star Wars.
So we won't talk about the fact that I haven't either.
Fine. You're not the demographic who should.
No,
or who should be expected to be.
Right.
Did you watch the match that I told you to watch last night?
I did, but like I was half asleep.
Good
So,
boy.
yeah. My problem with watching some of the older matches is that I like to know backstory and what's going on when these matches happen. So to just watch the match, like, yeah, it's great, but I want to know storyline.
Just to give everybody the backstory, so Steph randomly asked me matches to watch, so I gave her a match between the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express from like 1987. Here's the backstory. They fucking hated each other.
Got it.
That's all you had to know.
That's all. Well, thanks for that information.
Watch the end of the match because that's worth it.
No, maybe I did watch it all the way through. I think I like dozed. I may have dozed off in like the middle.
Tell me what happens.
Like 5 minutes.
No spoiler. It's a match from '87.
They're totally a spoiler. Well,
who wins?
It was the Midnight Express they said they won, but they didn't. And then I don't know. My brain is not working right now.
Go watch it. Okay.
It switched. There was something happened, but I didn't see what happened to make it.
You should recap shows.
I'm really good at this.
When they switched.
Why I don't.
One team won, one team lost. Something happened. They switched.
This is why I could not do a like wrestling post show because I forget most of what happens by the end of it.
Last week we mentioned that, maybe it might have been 2 weeks ago, that you would have a theme song in Pyro when you go places. Like, would you play a Michael Bolton song when you came into places?
No.
Like, how can we be lovers if we can't be? And like, we sell it. Like
I don't know what my theme song would be. Probably Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, because that's a jam.
I was gonna go with the Three's Company theme song.
No, for you? Oh, okay, nice.
Come and dance on our floor. We've been waiting for you.
All right, I think this is where we cue up the interview. Yeah, let's make you stop singing.
What's up, everybody? We're back on Not About Wrestling, and I'm joined by Scorpio Sky and James Willems. And the first question I'm going to ask, it's not Williams, but how many times a day do people fuck that up?
A day, not as many as you think, because I don't see anyone anymore. But as a kid in school, every single roll call was always wrong every single time.
Scorpio, Did you screw it up the first time you saw it?
No, I definitely waited until someone else. I mean, I feel like it's not that hard anyway, but to confirm, I definitely waited until someone else said it first, and then I was like, okay, Willems.
Yeah,
I can actually relate to that though, because my shoot name is Skyler, Schuyer. And growing up, it was always like Schuler, or still actually, I get Schuler, and I'll answer to that. If I go to like, any place like a DMV back in the, before COVID or whatever, and it's like Schuler, and I'm like, yep, that's me.
Yeah, it's not worth picking a fight over it.
Yeah,
that's a good question. So, what's your move when you should know a person's name but you don't? What's your go-to? Like
when, when there's like, oh, it's so-and-so's girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and I've met them 4 or 5 times before, but I just have no idea.
Yes.
I can tell you this. I'm not going to name names. Well, number one, because I guess I can't. But number two, because I don't want to get myself called out for it. But I have a friend who really long time, and the person who is now his wife, I met her so many times and had like not a clue. Like it wasn't even like, is it Rebecca? Is it not a clue what her name was. And so then I went to an event and had 2 other friends who hadn't met them before. And I was like, okay, so go over there, introduce yourself and be like, I am, and like make it very explicit that you're asking their name. And then when they came back from doing that, they're like, I have no idea what she said. It was too loud. And I was like, great, perfect. So I send people in. I just throw bodies at it if I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I'm chronically bad with it as well. I'm the type of person that will, like I'll reach out my hand to shake someone's hand and say, hey, I'm Sky, and they say their name. And by the time my hand gets back to my body, I've already forgot their name. And so, it's not bad when it's early, but eventually you meet someone several times, and especially if they're really cool, you just feel bad if you forget their name. So my go-to move is to introduce them to someone else. I'll just, oh, hey, this is my friend James. And then I wait to see if they're like, hi, I'm Glenn, or whatever it is.
But they don't do that sometimes. Like they'll just go, hi. And then like they just shake hands and then that's it. And then the conversation, you're all standing there.
And anytime Sky introduces me to someone, I turn to Sky and I go, so who is this Sky?
I hate you.
Sky, it's got to be even harder for you because you're in a profession where you've got your work name, your shoot name, like nicknames. So there's 10 different people. There's one person with 10 different names.
It's always great to just call someone by their work name. It's actually better to remember that, because I used to have a tag team partner, and his wrestling name was Quicksilver. His real name was Rick, and everyone just called him Rick. But if you get too caught up in that, then you might do it on camera. And we had a match once where one of our opponents was like just really giving it to him, just beating him down, and he shouts at him like, how do you like that, Rick? And everyone's just like our referee at the time, he actually works for AEW now. His name's Rick Knox. And I shouted, I said, referee Rick Knox doesn't like that at all.
Yeah, you got to cover it up. Did you ever think about splitting the difference and calling him like Rick Silver?
I always thought that actually. I just thought that was cool, but he never went that route. But I think that was always kind of like the idea. If he got big enough, obviously you wouldn't be able to call yourself Quicksilver. So Rick Silver would have been the move.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like about your dynamic is, and it's hard to, you don't really see this in podcasts or shows. So you have one person who's in the business, one person who's outside the business, and you're working together. I feel like when you have 2 people in the business, it's kind of like, well, they had their inside baseball thing. You don't really know it. When you have 2 people outside the business, they're kind of like, well, they don't really know the inner workings of it. So you have 2 different dynamics coming at the topic. So I feel like that's a little bit easier when discussing things like wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the cool thing about Wrestling with the Week is that it's not even a wrestling podcast.
Right.
Like it's a podcast where we'll talk about wrestling, because I think for any fan, that is part of the week. Like it's like that spike, right? Everyone's looking for that Wednesday night thrill and stuff. And so it's definitely going to be a part of the discussion, and Sky obviously has insight into it that we want to bring to the table. But there's so many other discussions. Like there are things, gaming is a great example, that I have way more insight into than Sky does. And so as he dips his toe into that world, like, I can kind of be the guide there. So it's a fun give and take, especially given how broad the subject matter of the show is going to be.
Can you think of anything that you've done so far where you've started the conversation talking about wrestling and video games, and then you just got off on such a tangent that you don't even know where you landed?
Every single time.
Well, okay, that makes it easy. Give me your favorite one.
Oh gosh, an example. James,
I mean, I'll just say this today. I don't know how we got there, but we landed on how Sky feels about Star Wars. And that wasn't the plan. And it went through it looked like the juggernaut crashing through walls, how we went from topic to topic, but we somehow landed on how Sky feels about Star Wars. And you have to listen to the show to get that, but it's really interesting to see that pipeline of conversation.
Well, I tweeted at you guys. So Sky and I have talked before, and our conversation was, how the hell have you not seen any of the Star Wars?
Okay.
Because it's just a fascinating, to me, because it, like, not even 5 minutes of it flipping through channels. It's just crazy to me. Have you felt pressure, Sky?
Everyone's pretty cool about people aren't. I have a lot of friends that are really big Star Wars fans, and they aren't like, oh, you got to see it. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I think they just kind of understand that, like, I just haven't gotten around to it. We have 30 something years on this earth. I just haven't had the time, I guess. I don't know. Like, and there's a lot of movies. It's a big mountain to climb, It's like, if you're going to start Grey's Anatomy, it's like, well, there's like 18 seasons or whatever. Like, that's a big mountain to climb, I just haven't had a chance. Maybe, I got time.
I think one of the great things about Wrestling of the Week is that I didn't know that. And if Sky and I had been friends for decades, I would know that, and it wouldn't seem like a fun thing to land on during the podcast, right? And so the fact that it's this pulling back of layers, my layers, his layers, and everything in between, that like really kind of makes the discovery part of the fun.
I think that's what's so cool about the fact that we did. Obviously, we talked a little bit getting ready to do this podcast, but we didn't want to get too close because we want that authentic moment where you peel back a layer and it's like, oh, I didn't know that about you, and that's going to happen right there on the show, and the people are going to feel like a part of it. I always say this, my favorite podcasts and radio shows are when it's just a couple of people having a conversation. It's not an interview. They're not going down like a list. They're just having a conversation. And if we can make the listeners and the watchers feel like they are right there in the room with us, just chopping it up, then we've done our job.
Okay, let's go back to one, because this always makes me laugh. Let's go back to something where you remember as a kid, you were just into it 100%. And then when you went back and looked at it when you were older, you were like, that is a steaming pile of shit.
Sky, anything that stands out to you?
It could be a movie. It could be a video game. It could be a TV show.
There's a lot that are like really cheesy. Like, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole a few months ago, and I was just watching all of these 80s action movie trailers, 80s, early 90s. And what I didn't remember about those is that they are all voiceover. And it's like, he moved into the town, was out of town. She was, and it's like, and the whole thing is just a bad voiceover and clips of the movie. But the most, like, the strangest thing about them is they basically show you the whole movie in the trailer. Like, they even show the good guy beating the bad guy at the end of the trailer. I'm like, okay, well, I know exactly what happens and how it happens. Why do I want to go watch this? But we did go watch them.
Yeah. Last time I had Sky on, I had fun going through his Wikipedia page. James, have you ever checked out Sky's Wikipedia page?
I have, yeah.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, the thing is, going back to the Wrestling with the Week, even though this is the first time we've worked together and the first time Sky has probably dealt with me, I go to a ton of Southern California wrestling shows. Obviously, I haven't recently, but like, I used to go to a ton of Southern California wrestling shows. So I've seen Sky, and I love that our relationship is now us talking about these things, because there have literally been times where he has dove over the top rope out into a crowd, crushing like friends of mine nearby.
I didn't know that.
So there is fun stuff like that. So yeah, I've peppered through the Wikipedia. I'm like, I think I might have been there at some of those smaller events. But yeah.
Isn't it weird how life works out? Like, you were at one of those shows and you never thought to yourself, like, oh, there's my podcast host.
Yeah.
So when the podcast gets huge and you guys are getting millions of downloads a month, if the idea comes, like, let's work James into a storyline on TV, James, how do you appear on Dynamite? How do you walk in?
Well, it'd be from the rafters, number one. No, I don't know. That's completely not up to me. I have I've done one professional wrestling match.
Okay.
And I've never been opposed to stepping in the ring again. I actually, after I had my match, I did train. I trained to wrestle again for a while, and then ultimately just like time mostly got in the way, and it just wasn't. I was like, okay, well, I clearly don't have enough time to commit to doing this the right way, and I would never want to do this kind of half-assed. So it's not. Listen, if you're asking me, yeah, next week I'll be on the show. But if you're asking anyone that matters, it's kind of out of my hands.
I just love the image of James up in the rafters, ready to make his entrance, and he like bumps into Sting, like, "Oh shoot, what are you doing here? Oh, what are you doing here?"
But let's add to that, like he's up in the rafters, and Tony Schiavone goes, "It's James!"
Yeah. The crowd, a hush comes over the crowd, but not because they're impressed; it's because they don't know what's going on or who's up there.
In the business, we call that, and the crowd goes mild.
Yeah, they're perfect.
And they're all turning around like, "Who the hell is James?"
Yeah.
That's perfect because that's how my entrances always go.
Oh, come on, man. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, stop.
No, it's actually tough, man. Without I haven't wrestled in front of fans since COVID. I don't believe, because we've only just recently started to have fans back just for the Dynamite tapings, and it's very limited. Because we're doing it in a very safe way. It is in complete cooperation with the guidelines set by the CDC, and everything is physically distanced. And we're very, very strict on making sure that the fans are safe when they come back. And we miss the fans. So as far when it comes to AEW, the fans were a huge part of it, and I truly, truly miss wrestling in front of them. I can't wait to do it again.
One thing that it shouldn't surprise me because I know how weather works, but one thing when I watch the shows, how cold it gets. I mean, you could see the announcers bundled up slightly, like enough that they're on camera, but like, that's kind of a shock. You're in Florida, you're outside, you're shirtless, you're wrestling. I mean, I'm sure you get a little warm in the ring, but it's cold out there, right?
When I used to come out and I would say, this is the worst town I've ever been in. That's how I feel in Florida a lot, because in the summer, it's incredibly humid and just insanely hot. And you're sweating in like every moment of the day. And then when it's not that, there's no middle ground. And it's probably not all of Florida, but where I visit, it's just extremely cold. It's freezing, and wrestling in that type of weather is extremely tough. Like the fans do not understand, if you're watching on TV, how difficult it is to wrestle in just that type of cold weather. Everything hurts so much more. It's hard to warm up. It's really just hard to get going, but hey, we're doing it.
Does the mat surface also get a little bit harder?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when the weather is cold, like wood, it has like less give to it, so the canvas is actually harder as well. So everything, when I say everything hurts more, everything hurts.
I can't imagine. So James, you should try that soon.
I was gonna say, that's why the best thing about Wrestling with the Week is that podcasts have central air and heat. So,
That's right.
That's true. But no one's gonna say it's James.
That's true.
We'll have to get Tony on at some point.
Yeah, Tony, come on.
That would be great.